All right, if you are someone who is going for and striving for making changes in your life, powerful, positive changes, and you've heard that negative voice that's maybe telling you you can't, you shouldn't, who the hell do you think you are? I want you to know that voice does not mean you're not intended to do it. That voice means you are on exactly the right track. And in this episode, I'm gonna help you flip that script. I'm gonna help you understand exactly what I mean, and we're gonna turn your breakdown into a breakthrough. Let's go. And before I get into this, I want to just thank the women in my community. This is a question that's been coming up often, whether it's a woman in the community who wants to do something as simple as show up differently for her loved ones, or it's a woman in the community who hates her job and wants to take a daring step and build the life of her dreams. Whether it's a woman in the community who doesn't like her relationship and wants something different. This episode is for all you women out there who are having these perhaps internal conflicts, feel alone and isolated, when in actuality, these are the kind of things that connect us more than anything. Our vulnerability is the key to our power, and this is what we're doing in this community, and I want to thank the women who submitted these questions to me. This makes filming and making these episodes so much more fun. This is literally why I'm here. We are stronger together, and this, like, what is the point if not to have these deep conversations? What is the point if we're taking these parts of us and trying to squash them down because they're embarrassing, or because we feel like we shouldn't have these thoughts? Like, how dare we? You know, maybe we've got a great life on the outside. How dare we think or want more? This is why we're here. So I want to invite you guys to all check out this incredible community of women that are doing this together. The link to my VIP Book Nook membership is in the community. This is so much more than a book club, you guys. Yes, we are anchoring ourselves to a book as a tool to help remind us to flex our muscle of balancing our nervous system, retraining our nervous system, inserting something like a book that balances our brains and relaxes us rather than grab our phones. But in actuality, this is a community of women having real, raw conversations about the things that we want to create in our lives and the areas where we experience challenges or where we get stuck. This is turning all of that into a breakthrough. So after having these kinds of conversations with many women, whether it's in my community or in my friendships, I have boiled it down to basically three main things that will help you hit a breakthrough rather than your breakdown. Number one, the understanding and knowing that when resistance comes up, it doesn't mean you're not meant to do this. It means you're about to bust through a previous ceiling. What do I mean by that? I mean, we're here as cycle breakers. We are here to do things that perhaps the people that came before us didn't. And so the difference between someone out there crushing it or someone out there breaking generational traumas and cycles is someone who chooses to keep going when they hit that ceiling rather than give up. And so there's a few things that I lean on that helps make busting through the ceiling easier. One, don't give weight to thoughts that come up at night. So if you've ever walked your child through a nightmare in the middle of the night, or perhaps if you've had one, you know that everything can feel heavier and worse at night. So those negative thoughts that come up at night, whether it's like, I'm not cut out for this, how can I do this, I'm scared, this isn't meant for me, I promise those thoughts that I will revisit them the next day in the sunshine. And if you have information or access to my brainwaves, you do this in alpha or beta. If you've never heard of that conversation, I'll link an episode below so you can learn all about it. But basically, we don't want to give weight to these not good enough, not enough thoughts during certain times of the day when we're in certain brainwaves. So I always deal with the heaviest kinds of conversations with myself in the sunshine. I know that sounds kind of weird, but again, just think back to any time if one of your kids has had a nightmare and in the middle of the night it seems super scary, but then literally when you're talking about it the next day, when your like heart is open, when you're in your flow, when you're in a better brainwave state, it almost becomes humorous how silly and scary it was in the dark. So I want to share a story of this of a woman in my community shared with me, and it was about her daughter. And her daughter was about to play one of the main characters in a play. And her daughter, as the play approached, started to have these like really negative feelings and said things to her mom like, I can't do this. Like, I'm scared, I don't want to do it, I want to quit. And something was really interesting. The organizers of the play had someone from Broadway come in, and this woman came in and she explained to all these children that even now as a Broadway star, every time before she goes on stage, she gets nervous. Every time leading up to a play, she thinks she can't do it. Every time leading up to a performance, she has a part of her or a voice in her that wants to quit. This little girl, hearing that person on Broadway, experiencing the same thing, got a visceral understanding that voice she was hearing didn't mean she was incapable. It meant she was pushing her previous limits. Just that alone, knowing that every single person out there doing what they're doing, the most famous person out there, experiences the ceiling, experiences imposter syndrome. The only difference between the previous version of you that stopped there and the version of you that won't is that you choose to be brave enough to go past it, that you choose to understand that you're worth it, that you choose to bravely take that first step. I love the Pink song Trust Fall. Like sometimes I listen to that song when I'm doing this. You bravely choose to take the first step. You don't look at the full thing. Just trust the first step and the next one will appear. This is how you bust through that ceiling. Number 2, creating a dialogue with your ego. This is a total reframe on probably what you've heard or previously understood about your ego. In all of the spiritual books I have read, everything I find tells us to power over our ego. What is our ego? It's that voice. It's that part of us that says things like, who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? Ego sounds like it would be like a powerful voice, like brave and bold, but the truth is so many times our ego actually shows up pulling us back. The purpose of our ego from a neurological standpoint is to keep our identity safe. The ego sees any chance when you're putting yourself out there that you could embarrass yourself or make a mistake as a threat to survival, and so it pulls us back. And I'm going to suggest a complete reframe here. What I say may be controversial, but I highly encourage you to try this because it's one of the most powerful things I've ever done. And I've actually taught our daughter to do it. And I'm going to share a story in a second about that. But rather than continuing to push down parts of us, right? The ego is a part of us. This voice is a part of us. It's with us all the time. Rather than push it down, rather than silence it, rather than power over, I'm going to encourage you to trust and ignite the power within, to stop hating, guilting, and shaming something that is you, because all of you is perfect and beautiful, and every part of us has a message to share. I think of the ego as like a child that hasn't been listened to. And so if you picture a child like that, after a certain amount of time, it's gonna show up kind of whiny, kind of negative, kind of in not its best state. And just like a child who's maybe throwing a tantrum, if we simply create space to let that child, let that voice be seen, felt, loved, and understood, we will see the beautiful aspects of that child. We will see the beautiful messages hidden underneath that negative voice. And so when the voice of the ego comes up, rather than squashing it, we're gonna partner with it. We're gonna create a conversation and we're gonna ask it questions. So I wanna share a story about this, about my daughter Kaya. So last year, Kaya had the opportunity with her cheer squad to perform at the halftime show at the Miami Heat game. We're talking like huge arena. And part of Kaya's routine was to do a back walkover, which she's really good at, but also had some fear coming up. And so as the event got closer and closer, I saw her kind of getting more and more nervous and like kind of going into her shell. And so I asked her questions. What's going on? How are you feeling? And when she finally opened up, she said she was really scared. She said she didn't think she could do it. And so I said, let's amplify that voice that you're hearing. What is it saying to you? And what Kaya said was that what she was scared of is that she had never done a back walkover on a wood floor, and that she was afraid she was going to hit her head and embarrass herself. That's the voice of the ego, right? And so that voice could be enough to make us quit, to make us stop short of busting through that ceiling, to make us keep playing small and wondering why we can't create the outcomes that we desire. The way we win is by having the tools, these tools, to bust through that ceiling. And so I told Kaya to ask the voice, what does it need? What does it need to feel safe? What does it need to feel ready? And she got quiet for a minute, and then I literally saw her eyes light up, and she was like, I've never practiced on a wood floor. I've only practiced on the grass and on the turf at school. I was like, great, let's do it. So her and her dad practiced on the wood floor in our home, back walkover after back walkover after back walkover. And I tell you, when it came to the Miami Heat game and I looked down, I could get teary. And I was like, oh my God, my daughter, like, oh my God, please, 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 you know? I thought the back walkover was at the end of their performance. I looked down, and in that moment, right out the gate, I see Kaya on the Jumbotron nailing her back walkover at the beginning of the performance. That would not have happened if she didn't give voice to her ego, if she didn't listen and understand, if she tried to just squash it down and quiet it and push through, hoping she could do it. You guys, by silencing this voice, we are silencing massive parts of us. and then we're wondering why we're exhausted. We are coming at the world half full and then wondering why we can't do it all. The inner voice is such a powerful ally when we learn to work with it. And so creating a dialogue with the ego is one of the most important aspects and step 2 of turning your breakdown into a breakthrough. Okay, the next step is the importance of expansive friendships and community. Right, for so long in my life, I didn't have community. I had incredible and still have incredible work relationships. I have an incredible connection with my family, my immediate family and my distant family. But I didn't have these kinds of friendships that I could sit at the table with and have these kinds of conversations with. I didn't have friends that were interested in talking about these things that I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to talk about people. I didn't want to talk about low energy things. I wanted to talk about expansion and the challenges getting in the way of us creating that in our lives. And so what happened for me is, for so long I felt isolated and alone, and I don't want that for anyone. And so this is literally why I created the community in our VIP Book Nook. I want every woman to have access to these kinds of conversations, and that's what we're doing on our community calls. And that's what we're doing as we're reading these books together in book club. This isn't just a book club. The book is our anchor tool. It's our tool that reminds us to stop and grab something inspiring and empowering instead of scrolling our phone. This is a club that reminds us to create more than we consume. This is a club that reminds us that play and joy lead to alignment and lead to balancing our hormones and blood sugar and so many other things. And so I created this community because as you're busting through your ceilings, as you're turning your breakdowns into a breakthrough, what's so important when imposter syndrome comes or the conversations with your ego get maybe a little heady or heavy is to have someone to lean on, to have these conversations with. I've fortunately created a group of women around me that are collaborative and expansive. And so I think what's really important is hanging out with people that are levels ahead of you. And I think as women, we can have these feelings of envy or jealousy. And again, just like the ego, try to squash them. Right? These are shadow emotions. They're dark and I'm not supposed to feel this way. Maybe we see a woman in our lives that we're like, God, she's got this or she's doing this and I want that and it feels yucky. And so we close it down rather than open it. What I encourage you to do is to see those feelings as a roadmap to what you want and what you desire. And when you're hanging out with the right women, what happens is you feel safe being vulnerable enough to say, I want that. How did you create it? And when you have collaborative relationships with beautiful women like we have in this community, that woman will turn around, extend a hand and say, this is how I did it and you can too, and pull you up with her. That is what we're here for. We do this together, and the importance of having a few women in your circle to hold you up in those moments where you completely forget. That woman to send the voice note to be like, I'm struggling. I need you to remind me of who I am and that I've got this and why I'm doing this. That is what helps lead to our success. It is so key, and I would love for you to join us. The link is in the description in the show notes. All right, so now that you've got those 3 to 4 tools and tips to help you go from feeling like you're having a breakdown and you're completely alone in it, to now knowing how to bust through that ceiling and women around you to do the same with access in my community linked below that's for free, we can do this together. I would love to hear in the comments what resonated with you. I would love to hear if any of this is familiar to you. What have you experienced? You guys, your comments, your input, your DMs, if it feels safer to do it that way, is so impactful for me. This is literally how I curate content that can help us all as women. And again, we're doing this together. We're doing this together. So thank you so much. If there's a woman in your life who you think could also benefit from this information, go ahead and click that share button. Again, let's be expansive. Let's be collaborative as women. Let's continue to help elevate one another and share the tips and tools and resources that work for us. I'll see you next time.